Have you thought yet that God can do incredible things, amazing things, in places that the world may perceive as weak are actually places where He is the strongest?
Hello, friends. Welcome to Quick Before You Forget with Tony Memmel. Tony, hi, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
I am so pumped that you're here. So, friends, I'm so excited to introduce you and so grateful for the time today with Tony Memmel. He is a singer-songwriter who was born with one hand and taught himself to play guitar professionally by designing a custom cast out of Gorilla Tape. He has since toured 47 states and 25 countries, sharing a message of resilience, creativity, and possibility. Tony, I am so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here with you. Congratulations on the new pod. Thank you for having me on. It's really a blast to be here with you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you. I am really wanting to walk through your story today. Like, I want to go on a journey with you through your past, your present, and your future, which leads me to the past first. Can you tell me a story about a person or a connection or a relationship that changed your trajectory of your life as a child?
Yeah, totally. So, like you mentioned when you were just introducing me a moment ago, something that's unique about my story is I'm a professional guitar player, and I was born with one hand. So from the moment I came into the world, my parents did not know that I was going to be born one-handed. So before my mom could even really see me, she could see in the doctor's eyes above the mask that he was wearing in the hospital that he was shocked. They immediately had to rush me from the hospital room where I was born to another place in the hospital to do tests. And my parents had a lot of questions about what my life was going to be like from those early moments. From the first questions, like, would I be okay? Was I going to be healthy? And then after that, if I was, the questions were more like, what would my life be like? They didn't know anybody who had a hand like mine. All my cousins and my grandparents and all of my aunts and uncles, everybody in my family has two hands. I'm the only one with one. So I think they just didn't have a real reference of what to look to or what that might be like. So they had so many questions. Would I be bullied in school because I had one hand? Would I be able to play sports or music, things that had been important to them? And the good news was the doctor brought me back to the hospital room and gave me back to my parents and said I happened to be healthy. I just happened to be born with one hand. They didn't have literature. They didn't have like a whole network to connect them to with lots of new information. Just one hand, and they took me home. And what ended up changing my life, and why I start the story there, is it's something that I don't even remember. But this is, I think, how things work in amazing ways in the world. Is that a few weeks after I was born, the pastor at the church that I grew up at would go around and just visit new parents at home and sit down with the mom and hold the baby for a little while and just hang out and talk. And my mom just that day, a few weeks after I was born, just started sharing those questions that she was experiencing. And Pastor Frank listened to every question that she had, and he said, Katie, have you thought yet that God can do incredible things, amazing things, in places that the world may perceive as weak are actually places where He is the strongest? And you can do things right now to help Tony to grow in his to be confident and independent. And I can't promise you what his future will look like, but there are decisions you can make today to help start shaping his life. And she said, I had not thought of it that way, but because Pastor Frank had that conversation with my mom, it was one of those things where, like, your mindset, your ideas, your life is kind of going one way, maybe fear or pity or whatever the way that you're feeling might be, but somebody gives you a different perspective, just a different idea that can help pivot you just enough toward a new track of thinking. And it changed her life just enough that she then encouraged me to do all the things we learn to do as we grow. And so I'm thankful to Pastor Frank for this day, for having that wisdom and for seeing something in a place that they had not yet seen, as young parents.
Well, I'm grateful for Pastor Frank. I'm grateful for your mom. These people are the mindset stuff is legitimate, and it's how you went from that to being on stage with Jelly Roll.
Mhm.
But before we go there, like let's like fill in the gaps a little bit. So
Sure.
you grew up in a house where you like to play guitar. You wanted to like to walk me through how you got to the guitar. Like how did you decide that this was your instrument?
Yeah, for sure. I love music. It's been a huge part of my life since as far back as I can remember. I can remember being encouraged in music as a young child in school. I can remember being told in class that it was like not singing time right now, Tony. Like because I always had some kind of song going on in my mind, in my heart, and wanted to just share it with people. And so I started playing the trumpet when I was in fifth
Mm.
grade, and I enjoyed that and enjoyed being in school band and jazz band. But when I got to middle school, I had a friend from school named Max who had an amazing talent for music. It's one of those gifts for music. He could hear a song off the radio, and before the song was even over, he could play it on a guitar. He didn't have to Google it or like watch a YouTube tutorial. This is before all of that. He could just hear it and play it perfectly, just like it had just sounded like we were just listening to. And I would even, go through my CD collection and be like, could Max play this one? This sounds really tough. And I just thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. And I wanted to be able to do that too. So the thing was, is I had never if you've ever felt like you're brand new at something, that is exactly how I felt with guitar. I didn't know anything about guitars, so I went to the library where I grew up in Waukesha, Wisconsin, the Waukesha Public Library, and I picked out every book I could find about guitars, from who makes guitars to who plays guitars, what kind of wood they're made of, what kind of strings they have, what kind of electronics are in the inside that you plug it into a speaker and you can hear it in front of thousands of people. And as I flipped through the pages, I saw something that just lit up my imagination. Almost every single picture in the book demonstrated guitarists holding a guitar with their left hand and then making the sound strumming and picking with their right hand. But just a handful of pictures, three that I can remember, looked the other way. It was they were making the sound with their left side and holding the guitar with their right. So it was called a left-handed guitar, and I had never even heard of this before. It was this giant discovery, and there were these artists in there that I was just coming to discover at the time, like Paul McCartney from the Beatles played left-handed guitar, still does. Jimi Hendrix played left-handed guitar, considered one of the greatest guitarists who's ever lived. And then a little bit later, Kurt Cobain came along and played left-handed guitar for the band Nirvana. And that was like my early inspiration. When I saw those players and I saw my friend Max, then I had to make guitar a part of my life. And that was kind of that first chapter of learning. And then it was now I now I have to find one. So I went to the music store in my community and I had this big wall of guitars for sale, different colors and shapes and sizes, and I imagined different sounds. But there was only one left-handed guitar on the wall. We're talking pre-Amazon. We're talking pre just like find what you want at any time. One left-handed guitar, and I turned the price tag over that it had on it. It was facing the wall, and I went up to it. I can remember turning it over, and it said $600.
Yeah.
And I was in middle school. And the face that you just made and the sound you just made was the sound of my, just like that wind going out of your sails, just like, oh man, $600. Like that felt like a mountain. So I went to my parents. I said, hey, mom and dad, wouldn't it be awesome if you bought me a brand new guitar? And they said, well, we don't have $600 either. to just buy you a new instrument right now.
Yeah.
This is new to us as well. But we tell you what, we'll meet you somewhere in the middle, but this is a really good time to show that if this is something you're serious about, that these are things in life that you have to start to think about working toward. So I started working. I got two jobs and saved and saved. There were jobs you could have in middle school. I babysat for younger kids in my neighborhood. Saved everything I could get from Fridays and Saturdays. I loved playing soccer growing up. It was like a huge passion of mine, and I learned that referees are paid to be on the field. So I got certified to be a soccer referee and would referee younger kids' games and save all that money. And then eventually I got to go and pick out my brand new guitar, and then I started to sit down with it and learn how to play.
Music is everything. Like you have walked me through something that you were inspired by the music itself, and you wanted to find a way to like bring that to life. What role has music played in helping you maintain this like positive outlook on everything?
Hmm. Well, music, um, scientifically, is it resonates with us. Certain frequencies make you feel a certain way, certain beats per minute in a song as they're mapped out. Some songwriters and producers and DJs consciously build songs around what people will ultimately feel from the songs and the beats that they're producing and creating. So, in those ways, music, it automatically or is kind of built to affect us. And in my life, there's been songs that I can recognize times where there's been songs that depending on a phase of music I'm listening to, impact me in ways where it's like I I feel really good afterwards. And there's some songs that I've been like, I think I need to steer away from this style of music for a little while. I feel a little low after hearing, this for a while, or maybe I did resonate with it for a while, but I'm kind of in a different place now. And I think it's interesting how as I've grown, and you probably speak to this in your life as well, that different songs speak to you at different times in your life, and maybe even have seasons and affect us in different ways. And that's kind of one of the beautiful things about it, don't you think?
I do. I mean, music has a way of, there's a line I think in Stranger Things where I'm forgetting, I think it was Robin. She said that music reaches parts of the brain that words can't.
Hmm.
And it makes me wonder what you feel, like what you want people to feel when they hear your music.
My music generally is specifically written and designed for encouragement and inspiration at its core. I have some songs that I've written for myself, or even maybe some of my oldest material that explores like a lot of different feelings and emotions in different ways. But because of the way that my life has moved from music as solely for my own songwriting and enjoyment to music as a purpose and as a mission, I spend a lot of my performance time and songwriting time working, especially with students in schools. And a lot of the songs that I end up sharing or even crafting alongside them end up being sort of like anthems of positivity, of endurance, of it's not, it's, you know, I call it like eyes wide open, world tested positivity. It's like, it doesn't mean nothing is ever hard. It doesn't mean you're not going to have difficult days. It doesn't mean that even as you're singing something encouraging, that you're not saying it through gritted teeth at the time because you're frustrated about something. But it is something to lean into. And that's my a lot of my songs that I write these days tend to be for those types of audiences and those types of places. And they can come from real places. I think that you can have an encouraging story or inspirational message that comes from a place that was a challenge for you that you're actually walking people through and they can resonate with in their own stories. So that's what I'm aiming for with my own songwriting
Well, you're
generally.
putting pain and you're transforming pain into purpose is what you're
Yeah.
doing. And your goal is to encourage and inspire people. How do you stay encouraged and inspired?
For me, uh, it's a daily walk of I think I try to be it sounds kind of funny, but I try to be even disciplined in this because
Mm.
I think we have to be when you're thinking of mindset, I have to be disciplined in the way that I even organize my day for what I receive first. If I wake up and the first thing I do is check how many people heard my last song on Instagram, or what's happening even in the news or anything like that, like my day is already set up for like defense.
Yeah.
Like versus like I like to build my morning around faith. I try and have some chapters from my Bible that I read or listen to, and then I try and be in a book specifically before I go to podcasts. I'm in an audio book of some kind that's encouraging and faith filled and just backed with wisdom. And then I go into like more of my podcast that have even more of that, and then I'm kind of ready for my day. So I try and start early so that I can put all that in, because you never know what your day is going to include. When you go out and you start sharing things with the world, or when your kids wake up and they're sick that day and you're already thrown for the day of what your plans were look different. So I think it's good to have that foundation first, and that informs the rest of my mindset for the day most of the time. And I end up, I think, having a deeper well to draw from usually with that in mind, because if you're intentional about those things, then it's this reservoir that you can keep going back to over and over, even if you're feeling tired. There's just a little bit more in there than there is if you didn't start your day that way. Do you have a practice like that in your life too, or something you try to do?
I do. I think that what we consume is so important. Like I've gotten very intentional about protecting my peace. And like you said, I'm guilty of it too, where you get up and you look at your phone and like, did that TikTok video go viral? Am I famous now? No, I'm not. And, they have gone viral and I'm still not famous, and who cares? So I honestly feel like what you said about, choosing to be intentional and choosing to consume things, I could be better at that personally, but, or at the morning start. I'm not, I need to read The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma again, because that book sets you up to change your life by shifting how you structure your day. But I've been struggling with it in the morning. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a hard run with the mornings. I haven't been sleeping very well, but I am very careful about what I consume. I've gotten to be, I get in a little trouble with my friends and family about it, because I don't always want to know everything that's going on, because if I do know everything that's going on, it takes me so dark. Like it's because there's this, I want to fix it. I want to help. I'm like in my, and as I'm saying this, I feel it in my gut. Like the world is heavy, and there's only so much we can do, right? So, but what we consume, thank you for the opportunity to talk on it, because I do think that what we consume has so much to do with how productive we are, how happy we are, how much good we can put into the world. And so you have to be, I think, in this day and age, even more careful about, what guardrails you have on that. So
Yes.
I'm curious, what did you like, how has your view of limits evolved and changed over the course of your time and your success in music?
Yeah. I don't know if I would call it, maybe even naivete. Like as I was growing up, or just I didn't consider limits very often. Like if I wanted to try to do something, I wanted to be the best I could be at that thing. Whether it was playing baseball, I wanted to play on the top team. I didn't. It wasn't. I just felt it was a positive drive too. It wasn't like a negative, like I have to keep doing this, or like and from a non-joyful place. It was like I love being out here. I want to be the best I can be on this field, and I enjoy it. I just had this endurance for those things. So whether it was music or sports, or those are good teachers for limits, because they push your ability as a performer or as an athlete to new places. You're always kind of striving to break limits in those how can you be as fast as you can be? How can you get an extra tenth of a second? The Olympics are going on right now as we're recording this, and I'm just fascinated by these folks have spent, their last 25 years of their life doing the same run down the mountain over and over and over, and it's going to be decided by a tenth of a second or one, judge's feeling of a style point. And I think that's kind of fun, and I feel that same kind of maybe kinship with people who strive for those things, because I think it's fun to test like limits and to see what is possible in life. I think that's something that just fuels me. Do you feel that way in your life too, with limits, or like trying to strive to break through new things, or even in things in your home or in your friendships, or
I am super self-limiting. I need to get out of my own way
mm-hmm.
and believe is the problem for me. So it's taken practice, Tony. Like, goodness gracious, it's taken practice. But one of my mantras is actually something that a coach in my workout app says, which is that impossible is just a big word thrown around by small people.
Huh.
And this is something that I adopt because I believe that God has a plan. And I actually jokingly talk about this, not so jokingly, because God's plan for me, I've always kind of brought to life in my mind as a little girl, as a teenager, as a mom, as a wife, and now trying to do this. I've talked about this yellow brick road.
Mm-hmm.
So I've talked about the idea of how God has a yellow brick road laid out for me, and I just keep showing up. And sometimes those bricks fall out from under me. Sometimes those bricks feel very steady. And sometimes I don't know what is going to happen on that next brick. And that's my challenge, is figuring out like how to trust and how to keep showing up, and knowing that there is a plan, but not always seeing, like, being clear on it and having faith and keeping going is my struggle. But it's tough.
Yeah. Well, even in that same analogy, it's interesting too. Do you find that as you're going down that yellow brick road, that there's also, like, just like Dorothy had, there's kind of friends positioned along the way
Oh
who have
yes.
their own like unique ways that they end up walking alongside you, or like things that they need help with, things that you need help with, that they're good at, that you're good at, like that you can kind of do it together then.
I
That
got
yellow brick road.
chills, Tony, because yes, honestly, and that's kind of the whole point, isn't it? Like, the connection is the point. Like, the connection is the red thread. The fact that we're even talking today, I wasn't necessarily going to go here, but why not? Let's go here. The fact that we're talking today dates back to high school for me, because your beautiful wife is an old dear friend of mine from high school. So, and she has shown up for me in ways that are quiet but constant throughout 40, I'm not 40 years, I'm 40 years old, but throughout the last 20 years, she's shown up in ways that, don't necessarily, they're not nothing big, or like, I haven't gotten like, an edible arrangement or anything, not like obscene like that, but she's shown up. And that does happen. And it's been, as I've started this podcast, I'm finding it seems to be almost like exponentially happening, where the connection that has happened with each of my guests has been so special. And not one conversation that I've had so far, and I think you're maybe like guest number 11 or 12 or something, not a single one has felt, we all want to keep, we were like friends now, like we were friends a little bit before to some extent, but like we want to keep going, we want to keep talking. And every conversation is leading to the next thing, and every connection is leading to the next thing. So absolutely, and thank you for that, because yes, that is actually kind of, aside from the faith part of it, God gives you people in your life, and we have the gift of connection to so many people, and I think a lot of people kind of take that for granted.
Mm, true.
So
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and I'll look forward to sharing this when it releases with Leslie, my wife. And you know her name, but for your listeners, but that she is, that when you describe that she's there in those quiet ways, that's really powerful description of who she is. She's just always, she's steady and kind of like just aware of places of need, and just shows up again and again. That's what she's like.
well, that makes me wonder. Obviously, you are grateful for her, but what else are you grateful for right now that you never want to let go of?
Never want to let go of. Well, Right now, I'm coming up, and I haven't really told my immediate family knows this, but I'm going to be going in to have my voice looked at, which is something that I haven't had since I was singing in high school. Just for like, I've been having some struggle with my voice. It's just been losing it more frequently from. So I've been grateful for it in a new way, because it's like it's something that's just always been there, and it's something that I've been singing, like I said, since I was a little kid, and just lately have maybe needed some extra help, and maybe a look at what's going on with it, but because I'm losing it more frequently. But I'm grateful for it in a new way. I'm grateful for big things, my children, and my two boys. I'm grateful that we have been intentional about the life that we've built as a family, so that uh, we kind of build our whole life around doing mission and life together as our unit of four. So we tour. When you mentioned at the beginning that we toured all those different states around the country, my kids are 7 years old and 3 years old, and we've gone. My 7 year old has been to 41 states, I think. So
Wow.
I'm really grateful for getting to experience the world, and new foods and new places and friends all over the place with the people I love most, and getting to share that adventure together with them has been something I'm really grateful for and looking forward to in 2026, because there's even more touring and travel coming up this year, and excited to see them get to enjoy it with me and Leslie.
I love that.
Yeah.
I how has being a dad changed your view on resilience?
Hmm. Well, I'm a dad to two young boys, and I am constantly reminded of my role in their lives. If you're trying to be an intentional parent, which I am, I've been praying over them, and who they are, and who their friends will be, and who their teachers will be, and who their maybe their future spouse will be, and what their lives will be since before they were born. And then they're here, and then their immediate needs are mostly physical in nature. They need to be fed and changed and things like that, and cared for and held. That cares for lots of different things. But then as they start to grow, I'm finding the amount of time, um, I want to be really intentional with conversation with them, because just like we talked about before, what we're filled up with is a lot of what comes out. And so I want, before they get filled up with anything else from TV or shows or friends or anything, that they have heard something that their parents has to say about the subject. So it's a lot of intentional conversation time. It's kind of, even if you're tired, you're trying to you know be filled with the spirit to, like, just like sow into them a little bit longer and a little bit more that day, to teach and to walk them through things, because there are a lot of complicated situations, and each of them is very different. So, like, they are going to need different things from me that challenge me in different ways. There are things that I'm naturally gifted at that my oldest son, and he is the most clear example, has struggled with so far. There's things that he's really good at that I have to, like, catch up on, even as a teacher for him. So I think that's a really neat thing about the design of parenthood, the design of family life, is, I fully believe that I'm meant to be my son's dad. I'm meant to be my husband to my wife, and there are things in those relationships that challenge me and will grow me in that way, and there's things that I hope that are my natural gifts, or things I've learned through the years, that I can also impart in their lives.
Let's think about kid Tony. Like, what would you tell 22-year-old you if you could?
Well, 22-year-old Tony was one of the tougher years of my life, because I graduated from college, but there was also, that was 2008. It was the season of
Mm.
economic downturn in the United States. The jobs that I had been looking at to have lined up were not exactly what I'd hoped they would be, in terms of I was engaged, which was a positive thing from that year. But when I thought about Leslie was going to still be doing college for another semester after we were married, so I was going to be primary like breadwinner in our family, if you will, for that season. And what was that going to look like? The opportunities I was having were like for $7 an hour in southeastern or in Southern California. I was like, that is just not going to work. And then I ended up taking a job that was out of music just to do something in work, and that was telemarketing, which was not in something I enjoyed very much, and
Brutal. Yes.
really challenged me. And
Hmm.
I ended up getting fired from my first job out of college, which was not a good way to start my like post college life as a 22-year-old. I felt that was probably one of the lowest I've felt, because it was like I felt like I was supposed to be like, we're getting married and I'm gonna, like, and I felt like I had nothing 2 months before we were getting started. So I would encourage him to, 22-year-old Tony um, to know that that experience is going to make you stronger, and to endure, and to try and do so gracefully, and to look for the Lord in that season in a way that I maybe didn't at that time in the same way. I have never strayed from my faith in a way that I never stopped going to church or anything like that, but I can't say it was the closest I ever felt in my walk at that time. So I think I think some practical things I would tell 22-year-old Tony would be, pay off the student loans and start investing as soon as you can, because that's going to make mountains of change later on. And that was not my story at 22. It took a few more years after that. And so I don't look at it with regret, but I do look at it as a source of wisdom. Like, that would be wise to do. And I would encourage my own children to do that, if they were 22 years old and earlier. So just like, that's like a mix of kind of, yeah, practical things, and hopefully some wise things that I can see now I'm 40 as well. Some things I can see that would have been helpful to know at 22.
Quick before you forget, Tony,
Yes,
what matters most to you right now?
my family, my faith, um, and my mission. Those three things, um, to share the I even believe that part of our mission is sharing like who we are as a family with people. So like going out and when we're traveling and I give a speech, and then the people in the audience come and share how some element of what I've spoken about, has impacted them that day, and then they get to meet my wife and my boys who are standing right there beside me, and there's just something really powerful about that experience together, and that's all built on faith first, then family, then mission. Those are my kind of three core values.
Hitting me straight in the heart with that. My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about somebody that came up to you after. Is there a story that comes to mind that really left an impact on you?
I try to encourage people in this a lot, because we don't always get that person who comes up to us after work we do. A lot of the work that we do in our life is it it can feel thankless, or it can feel like unseen possibly, but because of the nature of some of my work, it's very public facing, it's in front of people, and then there are often meet and greets and things surrounding the types of events that I do. So I get this immediate opportunity to see the ripple that has just happened from the words just spoken, or the sentiment just shared. So I have had students come up to me who have said that, or teachers who are with them who said, I've never seen students engage with a program like they did today. This was just, and I get to be that spark in a classroom or in an assembly or something, where like, I'm not the teacher who's there every single day. Just like I'm not, it's that thing. I get to come in and do something different. Maybe it's something they haven't seen before or thought of. Those types of things really encourage me to keep going and to encourage others in the same way. I have had people come up and say, man, I was feeling really low I was depressed today. I didn't even want to come to this event, and I did, and I know I'm supposed to have been here, and those types of things are really humbling. It makes me feel like that same kind of discipline that I talked about before, like please, like you know, um, in the things that we do, please try to show up as best as you possibly can. You don't know what ripple is going to go out that day from the encounters that you have, but I have seen it, and it's really powerful. Do you have opportunities like that where you've had people come up to you and say that something you've written or said has impacted them in a way that has, you
It
know,
keeps me going,
yeah.
honestly. And I haven't I've been blessed enough to not deal with a ton of negativity or trolling on any of my social media. I've been mostly blessed with direct messages of I needed this today to get out of bed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
or, you made me smile, or, just little things that honest to goodness are a big reason why I keep showing up because, it's easy to get stuck in that muck of trying to reach all the people at once.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that you've touched or changed or had an impact on one person that day is more than enough. So yeah, it's very fulfilling when it happens, and it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, and but that makes me even more grateful when it does, because it's like fuel on the fire of my heart to keep going and keep showing up and keep shining as bright as I can. Matthew 5:16 is kind of another one of like my mantras, to be the light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've walked through some pretty dark things. I've had a lot of challenge, and I've had some serious health stuff. I haven't shared a ton about it on the podcast yet, but I was very sick, and it was, the doctors told me at 35 years old that I was going to need a liver transplant and that I had cirrhosis most likely. And I worked through that, and now I'm so blessed to share that I am healthy, my liver is healthy, and God has done so much good in my life to make that happen. So I I worked hard. It was not easy, but I choose me over alcohol every single day, and I do that through faith and, keep showing up on this yellow brick road. So those people that cheer me on, I want to help people like I was. Like, I want to help me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because I was hopeless. Like, I didn't see a way out. I really didn't. And, laying in a hospital bed thinking you're dying because of something you did, like,
Mm-hmm.
that is heavy. And I had to wrestle with that. Nobody could wrestle with that but me. So God has done amazing things to help me heal and help me turn all of that into something good that I'm now, putting into the world, because I believe that I'm legitimately like called to share the story, but then to highlight and share stories like yours with people, because we all there's something in everybody's story that someone will resonate with, and we don't always know what that something is in the moment. But like you said, you've had a variety of different situations where people came up to you and said XYZ things, and that's why we always need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why we always need to recognize and pay the compliment and say the thing. It might seem uncomfortable in the moment, but you made that person's day,
Yeah.
So there was a challenge that my first guest, Coach Doc, put out there, and he said, like, just go up to a stranger and say something nice today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like their earrings, their shirt, like whatever it is, just like make a compliment a stranger today,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know what's going on with somebody, behind the scenes. So it's an ongoing thing. But I do appreciate any and every time that, and truly, sincerely, like deeply, anytime that anybody says anything positive, because it is what it's almost like I said, like fuel. So
Yeah. Well, our words have power, and
mhm.
I think that's part of what that means, right?
Yeah.
Um, that they have power for good or not. And I think that encouragement, that written encouragement can be just the spark that you need just to keep a little bit of gas in your tank, a little bit of fuel to keep going that day, and to do the pod, even if you're tired that day or whatever, whatever it is that it's that those things are there to help us. And thanks for sharing that with me.
Well, thanks for listening and thanks for asking. Honestly,
Yeah.
this is a fun conversation because we're talking. We're
Yeah.
just two friends hanging out on with some cameras on. It's all fine. Um, what's a part of your story that people misunderstand?
That people misunderstand. Something I see in the community that I am a part of, in the limb difference people, call it limb differences or disability, different things that people prefer to be called. But a way that I think I'm a little different than what I see from a lot of people in that world is that I believe that after I go out and share my music or share my message, that um, it's not fully in my control anymore after I've spoken it or after I've played my song and people come back to me with their responses to what they've felt or experienced from it. So a lot of people really reject, like, I'm not inspiring just for like taking groceries to my car, or that's just my life. They actually reject like the label of being inspiring to someone just for doing something that they ordinarily do. But I kind of go back to what you just said a second ago, in that like maybe that person really like maybe they were feeling even in their hearts something even lower, or something that they felt like they really are struggling with, and that was a source of encouragement. So I try not to like I think there are some misunderstandings in the way that people try to control the way that their stories are shared sometimes, and I prefer to share and to say the truth and to do it as kindly and as boldly as possible. And then I sort of have to let that go, and let other people experience it. And it's all going to get cut up in their own experiences and their own backgrounds and their own pasts and their own presence. I can't control all that, but I can control what I say in the first place. So I do my best to say things as clearly as possible, but it's funny. You probably experienced this too as a communicator, but I can spend dedicated time communicating a passage, a thought, something I'll spend hours on, so like some even a nuanced thing, and somebody will come back to me and it's like completely different than what I had intended. And so like I think it's just a fascinating part of, and I would encourage anybody um, in the world to share a little bit and to see how people do that with what you share, and to see what they take away from it. Out of your control eventually.
Some things are,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's what we do. It's what we do with it that matters.
yeah,
Do you have a song, like a survival song, like a song you put on when things are low and you're trying to hype yourself back up into to getting going again?
yeah. I The pandemic in 2020, when I was scheduled that year, I think, to go to something like 9 countries for different missions that I was going to be working on. And when uh, as for many of us, as the news rolled around that was not going to be the case, that was a scary time and a frustrating time, because I'd really felt like I had important work to do, and had worked very hard for a long time to get to a place where that was even a possibility to do those kinds of things, and then to have it kind of paused and then eventually even canceled, and then to have a little boy who was in my care, and a wife, and like just thinking of like, what am I gonna do, like, as a musician, and in this time. And I can remember that was around the time, it was right around Easter Sunday. I saw our church wasn't having services, but Elevation Church was. And so I put that on as like um, just to watch what they were doing. And they were singing Graves into Gardens. And it's this, this anthem that just had, I think, carried me through that season in a way of that I put it I if it has 50 million plays, I swear I'm 10,000 of them, just from hearing it over and over again. I just needed those messages of times that the Lord had prevailed, and times that that people couldn't see it at the time. It talks about turning seas into highways and bones into armies, and being the only one who can do that. So it was this way of returning to faith. And I think that in short time, even that, just hearing that a few times redirected my thinking the same way that Pastor Frank did earlier in my life. It was just like, no, like let's see what I'm supposed to do in this season then. If it's not meant to be touring in Africa, how do I still do something in this time and not not succumb to boredom or frustration too much, or like what can be found in this time. And so that was that's my anthem, I think, from those days, and
Yeah.
I would still say today.
You sure? I mean, it's a great one, and it's definitely it makes me think about, 2020 was challenging in so many ways, and now we're in another kind of really challenging time. So I'm wondering if you had a microphone or a megaphone to share one message with as many people as you possibly could. Everybody's listening, everybody's tuned into Tony right this minute. What would you say?
I would say to seek firmer and deeper foundations than the immediate things that we see in the world, um, and not to minimize anything that's happening. There are a lot of things happening at all times. I think it can be really challenging as somebody in 2026 to have the access we have to everything happening all over the world all the time, and any time we want or need, or just pick up our phones. Or turn on the television. There's always something bad happening anywhere in the world. You don't have to go far to find it, and a lot of what's out there is even that's the way that the same way we talked about music being something that really influences our even our chemical and physical makeup. That's a lot of the ways that people position stories to communicate to us, and negative and dangerous and challenging things do really like spike things in our chemical makeup that that get us fired up. So I would encourage people to anchor into something deeper than today. That's key for, I think, understanding the way that the world is operating now, and especially in a historical context, there is a lot we can be grateful for today that wasn't true even in my grandparents' lifetime. There, you know, I can think of, my grandfather was a World War II veteran, and he saw hell on earth there, and just knowing that that's not that long ago. But like there's always been things happening at all times in history, and just to again, I'll say it a third time, just to anchor in something deeper and older than ourselves, some sort of wisdom. For me, it's the Bible, and that's how I not only start my day but build my life on it as a foundation, because those other things will challenge us, they will pull us. But when you have that as your anchor, you can see that like there's always been things happening all the way back in human history, and this is. I also take comfort in knowing that we are built for the time that we're in. There's something about you and the story that you have, and the methods that you have to share it, the mediums that is meant for this time. And I do find that encouraging.
Amen. Thank you for
Come
that.
on. Come
Yes, let's go. Catch us up, Tony. So we talked about 2020,
Yeah.
and now we're in 2026.
Yeah.
Catch us up. How did we land on the stage with Jelly Roll? Talk us
Yeah.
through that story.
Well, this is a Leslie story because she, in her kind of social media searching, she has been some in our professional life. Leslie helps coordinate all of our program, or lots of our programs that we do around the world, and a couple of years ago, she came across this group that was starting called the Choir Room, which is based in Nashville, and it was this nonprofit that started to basically make music available to as you go out into the world. There aren't as many opportunities to be involved in music like you might have had when you were a student, for example. So, when I was in high school, I got to play my trumpet at Lambeau Field, and at when it was Miller Park, and I got to sing and at the Performing Arts Center in Milwaukee. I got to do all these different things, but I had to seek that in music as an adult, but like a lot of people, as they go out and they're not in choirs anymore and things, there's not as many opportunities. So this choir room started to do that, and they started by just getting together and singing, and then they became a recording ensemble, and I started joining the choir room to go and meet up with them and singing tenor in their group, and then had some really cool opportunities this year to sing with a number of different artists in the recording studio, and then that has also translated to the stage. So we last year I got to sing at the Grand Ole Opry for the first time.
Oh, cool.
And this year, in 2025, I got to sing at the Bridgestone Arena here in Nashville. It's like the biggest arena in town, for the professional hockey team. It's like 20,000 people or so, I think, when all the seats are out and it's set up for a concert. And I got to sing at the Dove Awards as part of the choir room with Brandon Lake, John Batiste, and Jelly Roll. Which was just a blast, and those guys were so cool. I felt like they really lived the things that they speak and sing about in a really interesting way. They just beyond just like charismatic figures. I think they were really genuine in the way that they communicated and everything, which was really neat to see. And what a blast to be a part of that. Just really cool.
Well, now that we're caught up,
Yeah.
I want us to picture your 80th birthday. I know we're a ways away, but tell me who's there and what you want them to be saying about you.
Well, that's a great question. I believe we're not promised tomorrow. So but I also want to have a long lens of what life looks like, because decisions we make today impacts our future selves in that way.
Mhm.
And I am inspired by people that I see who take their 80s as like not only an opportunity to relax or to stop, but to go and to be sharing and wise and productive in interesting new ways. They're writers, they're speakers, and I find so much joy and wisdom in what they share. And so I'm encouraged by those examples that I have seen, and would think that would be something to live up to. And I would love, if it is, if God willing and the creek don't rise, that my family is still with me. Leslie would be 80 as well at that time, and my boys would be 47 and 43. So that's wild to think about as well. But if
Mm.
we could, if I could be in their lives in a big way still, and be impacting them in the what that relationship becomes as they leave the household and start their own lives, and Leslie and I move to the next chapter of what that would be a very rewarding time to be still very productive in mission and what that looks like, and to be a leader for my family in my 80s. That would be wonderful.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing to think about, honestly. And you did that quick math. I'm like, I was trying to think like to do the math with my boys, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So fortunately, it's like we all just had three of us just had birthdays. So like I'm like birthdays on the brain from November and December. So and I'm 40. So like it's kind of like I'm like just adding their age to mine.
Yeah. I guess it's easier math than maybe some might think, but
Yeah.
I like math is not my thing. I've been
Okay.
bad at math
Gotcha.
my whole life, and I was just very impressed that you just like had those numbers ready to go. Oh man, Tony, you are a treat. I have had such a fun time. I am so grateful for you. The first like several guests on the show have all just been so special, and my goal for the first few episodes was to really be grateful, honestly, because I am just very grateful for the opportunity to have this platform and to be growing this baby of a podcast. And, I wanted to say thank you for your energy, for everything, all the good that you put into the world. We need more Tony in this world, like we just do. And I'm very grateful for the good that you pour out and seek to create. It's a beautiful thing. So, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to share?
I think you've pretty much said it all. I mean, this has been a really good conversation, and I feel like we could talk all. Even though we feel like we said it all, I feel like we could talk all day at the same time. I love just having these opportunities be a jumping off point with people. So if folks want to connect with me further, or I try to respond to every comment on my social media posts and DMs and things like that. I try to be really intentional with all that. So if you want to find me on those on really any platform out there, I would love to connect with you further and say where you came from, so we can keep the conversation going.
Well, maybe we'll just have to have you back on.
Hey, there you go. I would love that. That's great.
Until then, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time on Quick Before You Forget.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with me today on Quick Before You Forget. Please like, share, and subscribe, as that helps the show so much, and I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time on Quick Before You Forget.